Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Better Call Saul, Season 4, Episode 2. Alright, so I just want to start off by saying this was a very, very good episode, in my opinion. So, I talked a little bit about this on Let's Talk Television episode. If you don't know, that's my weekly series where I, put out an episode a week talking about a main thing in television. Sometimes it'll be focused on a specific show, or as of yesterday's episode, it was about spin-off series. So I talked a little bit about Better Call Saul and shared a little bit of my thoughts of this episode on that one. So if you haven't checked that one out, I suggest you check that one out. Go over there, support it, and check it out. But anyways, guys, so we're here for this review. A few days late, of course. I do apologize for that, but I do want to get it out, right? So I want to get it out, have the full collection on the channel, like I say, and have all the reviews together. So that is why we are here. So anyways, again, really thought this episode was great. I did say this in the Let's Talk Television episode. I said, this is probably within at least the top 15 episodes of Better Call Saul of so far of all time, but maybe top 10. I don't know. I really, really did enjoy this episode. The only thing that I would, maybe knock at it is that Mike isn't in a lot of it. He has, he has like 2 scenes in the whole episode, which is, a little bit strange for, typical Better Call Saul. So, he had a small role, but the rest of the episode was really, really great. So, of course, we'll start off with a little bit of a recap here of the episode. Then we'll get to a rating, my favorite character, and some more overall thoughts of the episode, go a little bit more in depth. But yeah, so anyways, thank you so much for the support on the first review for the premiere. Views, comments, likes, really do appreciate that. So, really great stuff there. I've seen some people, on social media, they're saying how it's going so slow. These first 2 episodes were so slow, and they really aren't that good. And I totally disagree. I mean, the first episode, yes, it was very slow paced, but it was also a very good episode. So, I don't agree with any of that stuff where people are saying, really bad episodes, they're too slow. Well, maybe this show isn't for you then. I'm sorry to say it, but that's just the way the Better Call Saul is, and that's the way it's been going so well, right? So why change? Why change it up? So anyways, so we start off with this one, and of course I'm not going to cover everything, but kind of the main points here. So we start off with the doctor goes to check on Hector, and this is Gus's doctor, right? So he goes and checks Hector in the hospital. Of course, this is the guy from Breaking Bad Season 4, I believe, where Gus, Mike, and Jesse went to the Don Eladio's place, right? And Gus is able to take out that huge cartel there at that pool party because he's able to digest the poison that is in that alcohol bottle while the others are not, right? And so he's able to do that, but he still is in a very bad condition, so Mike and Jesse have to get him back to this doctor who's set up at this sort of like tent place, his kind of like hospital per se, right? So anyway, so he is back. It was really great to see another familiar face. I feel like each episode of Better Call Saul this season, we're just going to keep seeing those faces come up again. But anyway, so we find out he's still unresponsive. Nothing much has changed, right? He's still in this, I wouldn't say, is it a coma, I guess, or at least in this state, right, where he just doesn't, he's still alive, of course, he's just not really, he doesn't know what's going on, right, he's unresponsive. So then the doctor meets with Gus afterwards in the car, and he kind of tells him the situation, right? And he says something about how maybe he just deserves to die, right? And he's even hinting at that, and I think that's how a lot of characters feel in the show, especially Nacho, right? And so because he went through with it. So anyway, so he's like, well, maybe he deserves to die. And then Gus comes out. I really love Gus this episode, by the way. He comes out and says he will be the only one who decides what Hector deserves. So, pretty crazy stuff there. Ruthless part of Gus coming out here again. He's going to decide what Hector Salamanca deserves. So, if he thinks that he should, die, he's going to die, right? If he thinks he should live a little bit longer and suffer, he's going to live a little bit longer and suffer. So Gus is pretty much in total control of what happens to Hector right now, even though not everybody knows it. But, he knows exactly what's going on, and he's going to use this to his advantage for sure. So really great opening scene there. So we see Jimmy up bright and early. He's off to some job interviews, he says, to Kim. And Kim's like kind of dumbfounded. She's like, well, yesterday you were, mourning your brother and all, kind of sad, and everything, kind of depressed even. And now you're, up and about and you're all excited, right? He's acting totally different now, right? After that, it seems after that scene with Howard, right? Ever since then, he's kind of totally been different. So a lot of speculation on that. Why is that? Maybe now he has kind of pushed his guilt on over to Howard now. So he's kind of, forgiving himself a little bit. Or he's maybe just distracting himself from reality, right? And that's not surprising. I feel like Jimmy is that exact, like that character to do that. That kind of guy to, throw himself into his work or throw himself into, in this case, looking for jobs and stuff to kind of take off, thinking about his brother and the loss. So, two ways to think about this, I think. But definitely he's kind of, acting in a role here, right? I don't think that's, he's not actually that happy inside. So anyway, so he goes off to some job interviews in this episode. We actually only see the one interview, but we kind of get an idea of what's going on, right? So then Nacho goes to his dad and tells him it is done, right? So his dad is not going to be feeding or cleaning money basically for the Salamancas anymore. And I really like this scene. Honestly, it was, this is just brilliance of Better Call Saul. Well, I would mainly say Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould. I'm not sure. I don't think they wrote this episode or directed or anything like that. But I'm just saying this has their name and their kind of work written all over it, right? This is a scene where there's not a lot of dialogue, but you understand exactly what's going on and you really feel that emotion from the dad and Nacho both in this scene. And so, I just really, really like the scene. His dad finally relieved, and then even at the end, he takes the money out, right? The money that, I guess, that the Salamancas gave him to clean. And so he takes that dirty money out and puts it on the counter, right? And he won't even give it to Nacho. He won't even touch that money to give it to Nacho to basically get out of his shop, right? He waits until Nacho comes and takes the money. And I just felt like that was a really, really great little sequence there. And Nacho's kind of forced to pick it up and then take it from his dad and walk out. And that relationship between his dad and him really tarnished right now, right? Because then the dad even says, okay, well, this is over, but what about you, right? Are you done? And Nacho says, I think he says something like, soon, right? I'll be done soon. And, do we believe that? Probably not, right? He's probably just kind of lying to his dad to kind of, maybe smooth things over. But anyways, I really thought that was a really great scene in the episode. And Nacho's kind of, and that's where we learn again his motivation for doing what he did to Hector, right, is to kind of save his dad from this, what has happened and how he's been forced into laundering money, right? And so that was really great. That was a really great scene. So we see Jimmy goes to his first interview. This was just, vintage Saul Goodman, Jimmy McGill, Bob Odenkirk, whatever you want to call it. It was really great. It was classic. So he bullshits his way through, right, of course, right, and even convinced them to give him the job at the end of it. He's, making all this stuff up about copiers and how he knows everything there is to know about it and all this stuff, right? But then they give him the job after he comes back in the room and goes on a little bit of a speech again. They give him the job, they offer it to him, and then he goes on a tangent, kind of out of nowhere, about about them being crazy for hiring him, not even doing any checks or anything like that, and he just leaves. He just walks out, right? And then we see him go to his car, and he calls up the next place to go to an interview. So we're kind of led to believe that he's going to be doing this at every place. So I guess he's not really looking for a job then, right? He's kind of just doing this out of entertainment. But also, he could also be doing this kind of taking out his anger on these people rather than kind of holding it in, right, about Chuck. So, again, there's a lot of ways to look at this as well, but this was just a funny sequence, if not, anything else. It was just kind of some comedy in it, and he, calls them fools, right, for hiring him after he just goes on this big speech. So, anyways, and these two guys are, like, totally confused, right? They're like, what is this guy, what is this guy doing? But, anyways, so we're led to believe that he does that at the next interview and the next one after that, but we'll see. I really love the part where he comes home to Kim and he says, well, it didn't go that well, right? And then we know exactly what happened, right? So anyways, of course, he's not going to tell Kim that. So then we see Mike. So this is literally his only part in the episode. Like I said, I think he has about 4 or 5 minutes of screen time in this episode total. So anyways, he meets with Lydia, and this was like one of my, favorite parts of the episode too. And he says he did what he did to put a face to the name who's cashing checks, right? So he doesn't want to just be that guy on the books who's getting money, right? He wants to show his face so people know him and can say, if they're ever asked, oh yeah, he was in here, he was in this warehouse, and whatever, right? So that's his kind of motivation here. That's why he's doing what he's doing. Because last episode, right, we saw him kind of going through the warehouse there and doing a security check, right? Then he tells him he's a security consultant, right? So anyways, so he thinks it will lessen the threat of exposure, right? But Lydia totally disagrees, right? He totally disagrees. She thinks it's a really bad idea, and she thinks it's better if he's just on the books and that's it, right? He doesn't show his face anywhere. And this is so funny. He says, and then she says, what's your plan then? And he says, well, 1 warehouse down, 7 to go, right? I just really love that line there. That is, so Mike, right? And you already see this Mike and Lydia relationship developing. Just hilarious, right? I mean, and in Breaking Bad, of course, you see it very, very well in that. As well in season 5 area there with Mike and Lydia. So you definitely know there's some history, and now we're kind of starting to learn where that's coming from, right? And so then Lydia says, after all of it, she kind of takes some stuff from Mike, but then she says this at the end. At the moment, you have Gus Fring's respect. I'd want to keep that if I were you. So she's kind of like getting serious there. She gets stern and says, Gus Fring respects you now, but if you keep doing all this, maybe he won't, right? And, so anyways, that was just kind of an interesting scene. I love that when Lydia calls Gus after this little meeting with Mike, right? And so Mike is, basically doesn't budge. He says he's going to the other warehouses and he's going to do whatever he wants, pretty much, right? And Lydia, at the end of the day, doesn't really have much control, right? It's up to Gus at the end of the day, right? And so anyway, so she calls Gus, right? And she basically complains to him, right, about this, and you just see Lydia's character right now, right? Like how, absent-minded she is. She's like, is this a private line? And she's all worried about everything, right? She's freaking out. And then you see Gus, and he's like the total opposite. He's so professional. He knows exactly what he's doing at all times. And so he just says, she says something about how he's going to just keep stealing badges and stuff. And then Gus just says, well, I'd give him a badge if I were you then, right? And just hangs up the phone. So he doesn't really have time for Lydia, but of course he knows that he needs her and Madrigal, right? So a little bit of a relationship dynamic there for sure. So I really like that part of the episode. Then we see Tyrus, and I'm not sure if he wasn't in last episode, I don't think, and I'm not sure how much of Better Call Saul he's been in so far, but it was nice to see him again. So Tyrus brings Gus details about Hector from the hospital there. Nothing has changed so far, pretty much, right? And the nephews have showed up there in his room. Awesome to see them again. That was really cool to see them, because they haven't been in the show since early season 3, I think, when they were standing up on that roof watching Mike, right? So they haven't been there in a bit, so now they're back, and they were in his room. And so then Gus examines some of the papers brought to him by Tyrus. And what I thought, because after this scene, it seems as though Gus totally figures out Nacho, right? So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe these papers confirm to him that Nacho did it. Because I think obviously he suspects that Nacho had something to do with it, but he isn't sure quite, what exactly he did. But I think these papers actually confirm that, just because of the way they look at the papers, and then the very next scene, he knows pretty much exactly what Nacho did, right? And so I think that's what this moment is. And he has like a really serious look too. His look totally changes when he reads this certain information on the paper that Tyrus gives him. So yeah, for sure. And then of course that plays out later, end of the episode there, my favorite part of the episode. So then Kim attends the will meeting for Chuck. So Jimmy is kind of out on job interviews, or flunking job interviews, I guess. And Kim decides to go to this meeting for Jimmy, right? Pretty much. And so she finds out what Jimmy is getting given. I mean, there's probably a better way of saying that. Is due to get, I guess, right? Is due to get from this will. And it's not much at all, considering his consistent care for his brother and, with this whole condition, going over to his house constantly, bringing him food and all this stuff and helping him. it's not much, right? It's not much for all that time and effort that he put into caring for his brother. And the other people are getting a lot more than Jimmy is, and he was his own brother, right? And so Kim recognizes this for sure. And she basically takes it out on Howard, right? And is really, really mad and tells him that he shouldn't have dropped the news on Jimmy, that Chuck may have killed himself, right? I may have committed suicide, right? And she says all it did was benefit him, nobody else. So it kind of cleared Howard's guilt a little bit with kind of overloading that on Jimmy. Although Howard still doesn't know that Jimmy was responsible for the insurance thing. So I'm not sure that it totally unloads his guilt. I mean, I'm sure that he's still very guilty about that. But yeah, it was a little bit absent-minded to just kind of lay that on Jimmy the day of Chuck's funeral, right? I mean, that's, but that's Howard, right? That's just Howard. That's the way he is. And so anyway, so Kim's really mad, and Howard, I honestly felt like he was being genuine in this scene. Maybe you didn't, but I really thought he was being genuine. And he asks him, what he can do to make it better, right? He wants to actually make this better. And I think he truly is affected by Chuck's death. I think he is one of the only ones actually affected by Chuck's death here. And genuinely actually, feels for Jimmy and in the absence of Chuck, right? So anyways, and Kim basically answers him, what can I do to make it better? And she says, nothing. You can't do anything, right? So then she takes Jimmy's check and walks out the door. And also with this check, he got a letter from Chuck addressed to him as part of the will. So we'll have to see. I hope Jimmy reads that next episode, although Kim hid it from him when he came home. So obviously, Kim knows that's going to set Jimmy off, but I'd like to see Jimmy read it and see what it says. Anyways, so then we see towards the very end of the episode here, Jimmy researches the doll that was placed at that fax company on the cupboard there, I guess, right on the shelves there, where he turned down that job. So we see, and they talked about the doll. They focused in on it for a few seconds there when he was there, and so he searches this up, and he finds out it's worth thousands. It's worth like $9,000 or something. This damn doll that's on their shelf, and so. Classic Jimmy here. He calls Mike, leaves a message for him, and says he has a job for him that he thinks he's gonna like. So just a really funny little thing here. Will they go through with it? I don't know. Maybe, right? And so now he wants to steal this doll from this fax company's shelf and sell it, presumably, for $9,000. So just a really funny, kind of quirky thing, and I love it because he's even thinking about this in bed, and he can't sleep over this doll, right? And so he has to look up how much it is and see if he can steal it, right? So just classic Jimmy here, and just a kind of a really quirky, funny little thing there at the end of the episode. So we'll have to see. Mike and Jimmy working together again on something would be very interesting in the next episode, for sure. So then we get the very end sequence of the episode here, which was pretty much my favorite part of the episode here. There's a lot of good things, but this was probably my favorite part, right? So Nacho and the other guy, and his name is Arturo, actually. I had to research that because I did not remember this guy's name. So anyways, Nacho and Arturo go to pick up the product from Fring's guys, right? Because, of course, they are taking over Hector's thing now, right? They are pretty much the leaders of Salamanca's territory, right, or his area now, right? So they're responsible for this. So they purposely short them a kilo, right? Those are Gus's guys. So Tyrus and Victor purposely short them a kilo. And so I guess this is just to show, Hector's gone now, so we don't really respect you guys. I guess it's kind of like that. But Nacho isn't having any of it. So Nacho just pulls out his gun and threatens them pretty much, to shoot them for another kilo, which it's not a big deal at all, right? I think it's really just Tyrus and Victor kind of being, douchebags, to be honest, right? That's just what it is. They're just trying to take advantage of them. But anyways, so Victor grabs it anyways, and so Nacho and Arturo get out, and they get that other kilo. So they're walking away, right? And Arturo's talking to him, something like that, that's how we do it, or something like that, right? And then suddenly everything goes wrong. So Gus and his man come out of nowhere. They put a bag over Arturo's head. They, tie it up at the back with a little twist tie there, and they get Nacho on his knees, who then watches his friend die. And I'm not even sure if it's his friend, really, but his partner, I guess, Arturo, die. Crazy, crazy scene here. Crazy scene. So it all just happened so fast, too. They get him in a bag, they tie it up at the back, they put him down on the ground, and Nacho on his knees, and he's watching him, and then we see it all play out. So, really fast-paced here. So then Gus says, I know what you've done. The Salamancas, they do not. Do you understand what I'm saying? Crazy, crazy line. So Gus, the smartest guy out of this whole situation, right? So he knows exactly what Nacho did, and he also knows that the Salamancas have no idea, right? And so he is totally using this to his advantage. So I knew that Gus was definitely onto him, and he's using it to his ultimate advantage, right? He's taken full control of this, right? And this is also the reason for Arturo being killed in this scene, right? Because he would have told, right? Gus could not have addressed Nacho like this without Arturo telling, because Arturo was still very loyal to Hector, I believe, and the Salamancas. So is he a Salamanca himself? He might be. I don't remember. But anyway, so he's very loyal to them, and he would definitely tell on Nacho. So that's why they took him out in this scene, right? So it all makes more sense. And then Gus says to Nacho, look at me. From now on, you are mine. Crazy scene, and the way Giancarlo Esposito portrays Gus, it was just a badass line, a ruthless line. And Nacho, you see his face, and you really see he knows that he screwed up, right? He knows in that moment that he is screwed up, and he has even probably made his situation worse now, because before he was under Hector was doing some bad things to his dad, but now he's basically Gus Fring's guy for anything he says, because the minute that he doesn't do what Gus is asking, Gus goes to the Salamancas, Nacho's killed. So, and then if he doesn't do what Gus is saying, Gus might kill him. So he is now in pretty much a worse situation than he was before, taking out Hector. Crazy, crazy scene. Gus knows he basically knows everything. He knows everything that's going on. You can't really slip anything by him. And I really love this scene, especially because it's bringing back those Breaking Bad feelings. God damn. I mean, this was just a really vintage Breaking Bad scene, right? And even in Breaking Bad, we see that almost same scene play out. And I think it's season 4 premiere when Walter and Jesse, Jesse in specific, kills Gale, right? And so then Gus figures out, of course, that happened. Or no, maybe it actually is a couple episodes after, because then we get that box cutter episode there where they find out that they killed Gale. But it might be a little bit after that then. But sometime in season 4 there, they take Walter out to the desert, right? And Gus is pissed at him, right? And so he takes Walter, he kneels him, Walter's kneeling down on the ground, and Gus kind of hovers over him, right? And basically he doesn't say, you are mine, but he essentially says the exact same thing in different words to Walter. So just a really great little thing here. If you catch that, it's pretty much the same as Walter's situation a few, seasons later in Breaking Bad as this scene here with Nacho. So crazy, crazy little scene here, and that is how the episode ends. Gus walks off, and Nacho is left there, on his knees, and he's in a tough situation now. He is in a very tough situation, and Gus, he is in a great situation. He basically outsmarted everybody here, and now he is in total control of pretty much everything going on. And you have to mention, too, he wanted Hector gone, right? So this is, basically a win-win would be an understatement for this situation for Gus right now, right? This is just everything aligning for him, for sure. All right, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.8 out of 5. Honestly, I mean, this was great. Welcome back to the best show on television, honestly. So that's just what I thought right after that scene with Nacho and Gus. I said that to myself. I'm like, okay, this is the best show on television. Yep. Yes, it is. So, just a crazy, crazy episode. And that last scene, like I said, brought back those Breaking Bad feelings, man. That was crazy. That was awesome. So, anyways, we are back. Now, I'm not saying it ever, was gone or whatever. I'm just saying that they haven't reminded us of the fact that it is the best show on television in a little bit. It's been a little bit since they've really pressed that home. And this episode definitely showed me that, and I do believe it is the best show on television right now. So really great stuff here with this episode, setting up a lot of things going forward, right? And what's going to happen with Gus and Nacho now? Maybe just Nacho in particular. I mean, what is going to happen with him now? Jimmy and Mike, are they gonna, pull this little heist of this damn doll from this fax company? Just a lot of stuff, setting up. So, and what's gonna happen to Hector? Obviously, we know where he goes, right? He ends up in that wheelchair and that bell. So, how is he gonna get to there, right? So, we're not sure. But, anyways, honestly, the only reason why this maybe isn't a perfect episode is because Mike had such a small part. He, like I said, had like 4 to 5 minutes of screen time in this whole episode, which was a little bit disappointing because I really love Mike. So that was really one of the only negatives of this whole episode here. That I could think of. So anyways, that is what it is. The last 5 to 6 minutes of this episode was amazing. It was insane. It was crazy. So we get that whole scene with Jimmy calling Mike, and then that whole sequence with Nacho playing out. So really, really crazy there. Really great end of the episode here. And honestly, welcome back to the best show on television. Better Call Saul is, and I don't want to say it's back because it's always been here, right? But now, it's finally, it's back at that Breaking Bad point. You know what I mean? So it's reached that level again. Favorite character for this one, I'm going to go with Gustavo Fring, Gus, right? Played by Giancarlo Esposito. He was great in this episode. I mean, the ability to portray Gus, I mean, because it was a few years between when he played Gus in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and he has the exact same precision, the exact same way he portrayed him in Breaking Bad, he's doing in Better Call Saul, maybe even a better job, honestly. Like, Gus is a really, really great character now in Better Call Saul, so the ability to do that, to kind of channel that character again with himself is insane. So Giancarlo Esposito, really great job he's doing, and Gus is becoming a huge character in Better Call Saul now. He had a lot of stuff in this episode, of course, and I talked about him with Nacho getting pretty much exactly what he wants in this whole situation. So we'll have to see, where he goes. Of course, we know that he is alive until Breaking Bad. So we'll have to see, what happens with the rest of him in season 4. Crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. But I really loved him in this episode. The ruthlessness from the very beginning to the end of the episode, right? The whole way through was really great. So, anyways, Giancarlo Esposito, really great job as always. So, anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for this review of Better Call Saul. I'm trying to get these out on Tuesday or Wednesday, so I do apologize for this one being so late. But anyways, next week, hopefully, should have this review up in 2 or 3 days now for episode 3 coming out tomorrow night. So I'm really excited. Hope you guys are too. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the whole rest of the season. It's looking like it's going to be the best season so far, Better Call Saul. So really great. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this one. Thank you so much for your support on the channel. Can't thank you guys enough. We're at 163 subscribers, I think. 68,000 views, something like that. So we're growing really fast in the last 2 or 3 weeks here. I really do appreciate it. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you for episode 3 of Better Call Saul season 4.
To shout out feeling lonely.